I've been on the Natural Resources Committee for 3 terms. I was on the Agriculture Committee for 3 terms, 2 of those as chair, which in Vermont, you don't actually have to be the majority party all the time to be a chair. Occasionally they give one to someone from another party, which also makes Vermont somewhat different. And then I was on the Ways and Means Committee for a couple of years when they took my chair away from me. They at least moved me to a, quote, powerful money committee. I guess with the topic being lessons learned, I almost ran, what's that really mean, for statewide office a couple times, and even just exploring that was an interesting process, talking to labor leaders, environmental leaders, and others about the possibilities. And that was when Bernie was moving to run for the U.S. Senate from the House. The thought was, well, we've had that seat as a non-Democrat for a while, we should maybe consider continuing that. And I ultimately chose not to run for both family, farm, and political reasons. But, that was an interesting discussion with some labor leaders and environmental leaders who had experience with me in the House from 10 years or 12 years at that point, that I was a strong ally, and it really put them in a contortionist position because they had the President Pro Tem of the Senate, Democrat Peter Welch, running, or likely to run, and my considerations, and they were in a tough spot because they knew that he was generally good and I was 100% good. And then there was the electability questions and the spoiler questions and all those things. But I would say in terms of running, staying true to your values is the most important thing. And I think one of the benefits of running as a member of a third party is you've already put your values and your issues right there after your name with your party label, and right there under literature, and right there when you're speaking. And so we don't pull punches about what our beliefs are. If we did, we'd be running in the Democratic Party and giving vague, mixed messages so that we could appeal to everybody, regardless of whether they actually agree with us or not. And one of the great things about then getting elected, having run, staying true to your values and keeping those principles right on your sleeve and on your literature and in your speeches, is that you then can serve looking forward. You can serve pushing those issues. You can put in the bills that are radical, like taxing wealthy people so they don't cut human services, as radical as that may sound, without people going, whoa, I would never have expected that person to do that. Whereas a number of my Democratic colleagues, some of whom are as small p progressive as I am large p on the issues, say, well, I'd like to do that, but I really can't because my district's more conservative. They're always looking back over their shoulder. So one lesson is that running as a third party, you get to be true to your values, which actually you then get elected, is really great, because then you get to try to implement them and not be scared that your district is going to be surprised by your actions. In watching Anthony Polina run for some statewide offices in Vermont and a couple other Vermonters running for statewide offices, progressives, money, unfortunately, is critical. Even in a small state like Vermont at this point, running for governor, you need probably $500,000, if not $600,000 to $800,000. And the vast majority of voters make their decisions in the last 2 to 3 weeks of a campaign. Most people don't pay attention. The people that are paying attention for 2, 3, 4, 5 months out are the people that are most politically active and already most wed to the party that they've been wed to for a long time. So I think using your money wisely, hosting community events, free food. Bernie Sanders is the king of that lesson. If you have free food events, you're going to bring out people that otherwise sometimes have been disenfranchised by the political process, and then you've got a captive audience who actually agree with you but didn't know it. And so then you get a chance to chat with them a little bit about it and class issues and economics, and then you bring in voters that otherwise weren't going to vote. And I think that's a huge segment to potentially tap in the electoral arena when half the people don't vote. They're not voting for a reason. And our policies and our ideas may inspire them to vote. So I would say free food is a big one. It's hard to get long nights of sleep, especially if you're running a statewide office, you're running all over the state, etc. But I do think staying true to your values, as much as it's good politically, also allows you to sleep well at night, which you need to do in order to have the energy to talk as much as you have to talk. My quick one lesson with respect to the major organizations that should be supporting green parties or green progressive third parties on a regular basis, whether it be labor, environment, housing, Anthony Polina ran for lieutenant governor in 2002 and ended up getting 23% of the vote after he got 9% for governor in 2000. And one of the big elevations of his vote was labor supporting him in that election. The Democrats were, pissed off to say the least at labor for publicly endorsing Anthony over, who is actually the person who's now our governor, Peter Shumlin. A lot of them said to labor leaders, sometimes publicly, certainly privately, you're really hurting your chances for us to really support your issues as much, and your agenda's gonna not get as much push, and you really hurt yourself by supporting Anthony Polina. And one of the best things that occurred, in my opinion, in the next year throughout that scenario at the various labor conferences, and people would get up and say things. The president of the AFL-CIO at the time, Ron Pickering, got up and publicly said, folks, if the Democrats want to keep giving us grief about this, you go right ahead. But our understanding is that people in office support the policies, because you support them. It's not just for our votes, it's not just for our money. Do Democrats actually believe in labor policy and labor issues? And if you do, you're going to do it anyway. And you're going to earn our support, and you'll get our support. But if you're not doing it, why should we be supporting you? And, basically publicly humiliated them in terms of saying, well, because you didn't support us, we're not sure we're going to support your issues. I was like, well, guess what? You either do or you don't. Is it something you believe in or not? And they've sort of gotten better, although with the recession, they've certainly more than one cut a lot of public service positions and a lot of support. Not certainly a Wisconsin scenario, but running as a third party, being successful, also emboldens the organizations that we work with as allies to stand up for their issues and their members in solidarity. So you don't even need to do it. I'm all set. That was the end of my
Wow. Here's the extra